Hey there, it's time to test the 3D printed 4x5 camera as well as the 6x12 film bag. I've got meanwhile a lens. I decided to go for the Nikkor 180mm. It was a good deal. The lens is in great condition and was cheaper as the lens board and the retaining ring were not included. The board was easily printed and the ring can be easily sourced separately. In this video I will show you my journey of shooting in total 4 rolls of film, as well as explaining my learning process. Starting off, I used a roll of Kodak Gold. It was the cheapest film I had laying around and just went for it. I made one mistake straight away as I spooled the film with the negative side to the outside of the spool. This type of photography is slow photography and I was rushing making such a mistake. I realized that when I was done with the roll and just tightened the roll up with a rubber band. The first shot in the evening hours is underexposed and there are some stripes or banding present, but for a first shot that looked alright to me. The second one got a bit more light and the sky seems a bit more uniform without or at least less stripes or spots. Again, I was rather happy with this shot as well. And the third shot, then things got a bit funky. With daylight, light leaks occurred, which I'm pretty sure relate to the dark slide. Then some spots that I cannot really explain, and some general light leakage or maybe internal reflections due to the sun not being behind the camera. I'm not sure, but this test shot does not look good. Followed by this shot, which shows the same characteristics with a lot of light leakage on the side and the framing fog, which seems like light leakage or some reflections. The last shot on that roll was an indoor test with again some dark slide light leaks as well as much smaller issues on the edges. To be honest, I expected much worse for a first test and also thought that I probably handled the dark slide too roughly. For the next tests, I wanted to step up and shot 2 rolls of Portra 400 in Lithuania. Well, what a fool I was, thinking that was a good time to step up. Have a look yourself. Stripes, spots, the weird frame and the dark slide again. The more I look at it, the more I actually like it, but it surely is not what I intended to do. Next one again, with the frame light leaks, the dark slide issue, and now some sharp-edged light leaks. There are also some pattern fragments overall, but that seems to be due to scanning. I started using a flatbed scanner and I was still getting used to the settings and profiles. Another one, but with heavier light leaks. And the fourth shot of this roll. This test obviously got a bit shaky and is not sharp, but also here there are some light leak issues. The fifth shot was heavily underexposed and was also unsharp. Coming to the last shot of this roll, this one looks really good. Weren't there just these light leaks again? I believe that I actually advanced after a shot the roll by 1 number, left it like that until I got to another test shot. That time was sufficient to create this dark slide light leak, I assume. Once I was ready to shoot, I advanced the roll by another number and this light leak occurred due to the handling of the dark slide. It seems like the dark slide was not light tight, even when closed and not touched, but when used to open for exposure, it got even worse. Well, not being at home and not knowing how the first roll of Portra looked like, I just loaded another one. Starting off with an indoor shot. It turned out quite well, but there is some light leakage in the center towards the right side. There seems to be another case of leaving that film bag half advanced for a day, leading to light leaks on half of the image. Interestingly, some softer light leakage occurred on the left side as well, and an unharmed stripe remained in the center. This behavior then continued. Afterwards, I wondered if the different layers of the film bag were not properly aligned when I changed the film rolls, and I overlooked that, causing general light leakage. The tightest place is actually the center, where the screws hold it all together. I assume that is the reason why the center is sort of unharmed. Another such example, interestingly, the general light leak frame around the whole image does not much occur here on these middle stripes. Some more light leaking fun on this one. Well, that was the fun in Lithuania, and the panoramic landscape type of effort went down the drain. Letting that sink in, I made some adjustments. The first one was actually following all the instructions. Yes, I tried to cut corners. The two base elements with the dark slide in between were expected to be glued. I did not do that, as it seemed overall tight enough to not require further gluing. I'm pretty sure that this is one of the main reasons for some of the light leak issues. I also glued the turning knobs. I'm not sure if that will make any difference, but I did not want to leave any of these details out anymore. Then, the dark slide issue. The velvet fabric that I got, and I could not find any better velvet, is some stretchy material and felt rather thin. So I decided to reprint the base layer and add a slightly elevated bump in the middle of that part where the velvet is supposed to be glued in. This increased the tightness significantly. When I then loaded the next test roll, I also taped the housing with black tape. Aside of gluing and further tightening the different layers of the case, I was expecting this action to reduce further any potential light leakage, like that frame that I experience on most of the images. When exchanging with another user of that film bag who also experiences light leaks, he mentioned to me that he suspects the sides of the film bag not having enough corners to stop bouncing light reaching the negative. It appears that some parts just have a 90-degree barrier, which might not be sufficient for blocking all the light. Anyways, the taping should cater for that. Another adjustment that I did related to the metal stripes that put pressure on the film rolls. The initial peanut can metal that I used was too thin and did not hold the roll sufficiently from unrolling. That was also a reason why I advanced sometimes the film just by half in between the shots. Thicker can metal definitely made a difference, and it got so tight that it was sometimes even difficult to advance. That was just the film bag. I suspected most issues that I experienced with the film bag and not so much with the camera. But just to be on the safe side, I checked also the camera. I glued some black felt along the rear part of the inner bellow. I don't think it will make any impact on potential inner reflections, but I had that stuff laying around anyways and just glued it in. So let's check how the fourth test roll turned out after all these adjustments. This time I got some cheaper film, Fomapan Classic, black and white, ISO 100. The first test shot, boom, no light leaks, underexposed, but generally quite an improvement. A new issue popped up though, horizontal scratches. Not nice, but it can be fixed moving forward with some sanding paper. Next one looked quite good. The upper edge seemed a bit light, but I do not believe that these are light leaks. Just a mostly cloudy sky. The scratches are present again. This one does not show any signs of light leaks again, but the scratches are now very present. This one is a bit overexposed. An indoor test, all good except for the scratches. I was quite happy and relieved to finally see the expected results from that film bag. It works, it just needs some final fine-tuning to get rid of these scratches. And generally speaking, the process that I outlined here is the normal process when getting 3D printed items to work. They barely work from the start, and adjusting and fine-tuning is part of the process. I have been just too impatient. The only thing that I would have preferred to be reflected right away is the 90-degree situation. I'm not sure if I see myself cutting neat stripes of tape every time I change a film roll, but Edgar Kech seems to work already on a new version for a while. Quite possible that at some point the new design, once ready, will replace the one that I tested. Aside of the film bag, which got a lot of attention, I also used all these times the 4x5 camera. It was a lot of fun, and I really had to focus on slowing down The design is great and functional, but a few things caught my attention. I printed it all in PLA. Generally that is fine, especially for a prototype as in my case, but being in the field during the summer, PLA has limitations. With heat it could change its form. I have not experienced that myself during my tests, but I also did not expose the camera to the sun too heavily. PLA can break. In the assembly video it was already present that one of the locking levers broke off. I could continue using it, but it just highlights again the attributes of PLA and its potential limitations. When you use the 6x12 film bag, you basically exchange the ground glass for the film bag once everything is in focus. However, if you use film holders, they can just slide in between the ground glass and the body. I've got myself a film holder by now for testing, but I have not shot yet in 4x5 format. When sliding in the film holder for a test, one part that holds the wire broke from the pressure. Even if you print it with 100% infill, due to the layers of printing, things can break. I started to look into other materials and printed the replacement in ABS. While it seems to work for the 4x5 film holder, it clearly shrinked and the 6x12 film bag was not fitting in well. However, the first shot of the fourth test roll was with the ABS part in place, so it worked actually alright. As I worried about the shrinking, all the other shots of the fourth roll were taken with the PLA part, which I fixed with glue. In the assembly video, I also mentioned that I cut the wires shorter and that it might be a mistake. When you squeeze in the 4x5 film holder, it pushes the ground glass up and having the film holder underneath. This is a common concept, but was new to me. Therefore, it makes sense to leave the wires a bit longer to avoid the wires to jump out with some overstretch. With all that said, it was quite a journey and took me overall longer than expected. It also made me reflect a lot about possible limitations of these designs as well as their benefits. I will likely continue to experiment with these items and gain experience with this 4x5 setup. However, in regards to cameras, I will keep my eyes open for wooden or metallic options moving forward, as well as check more 3D printed designs for various formats. I hope you enjoyed the video. In case of questions or general feedback, hit the comments. See you next time.